Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Brave Voice webinar series. This is part 3 of Unleash Your Sound. And I am super excited that tonight we will be talking about balancing the heart with the technique and how important that is. And with that being said, I just wanted to share this one phrase. One of the things my pastor, Bishop, always says is slow down to the speed of life, and how life will make us and teach us how to slow down um, to the speed of revelation, slow down to the speed of life, slow down, just slow down. And sometimes it's important that we take those moments because we get so much theory on a daily basis, so much information. This being the information age, and we have access to so much, whether it be talking, podcasts, visual stimulation, social media, groups, and trainings, and we get so much that if we don't take time to slow down and process it, we're uh, this was said last night too in service, but it's almost like we live life like it's a Walmart and we can just pick up anything off the shelves and just throw it in the cart. And some stuff we don't have need of. Like it's just there and it's like it's clutter, but it's not sorted through and it's not intentional. So, um, as much as we can, even taking these past 3 weeks, I know Vanessa, you weren't on the other sessions. You have experienced it last year, which I'm grateful for. Very
Yeah.
similar. There is definitely probably some more information that we've gone through, and Valerie asked some really great questions. Miss Karen, who was on the last session, asked amazing questions. And so, for those that are watching the replay, if you were not able to join all three or did not purchase all three, did not get all three, I encourage you to join in or watch them or get them. You can always message me at chantelhamptonmusic@gmail.com to find out how you can get access to those, or visit the website so that you can get access to those, because I feel like this this was intentionally built in 3 parts because it's so much information and there's so many experiences, and we all go through different experiences that keep us from being brave, that keep us locked into our heads, that keep us from discovering who we truly are. And for some of us, we've been trained, we have had tons of vocal lessons, or we've seen it all of our lives, and we've been around it all of our lives. So mimicking is easy, or the surface level of being able to sing like someone else, whether it be, let's just throw out names, Whitney Houston or Kira Sheard or whoever, like you can mimic them, but really developing and finding you in that and your heart in that is a challenge. And that's why slowing down, processing, really capturing um, these lessons, but also capturing the heart and the essence of who you are is so important. Um, I know Valerie, you have a copy of the book. I'm not sure if Vanessa, you were able to download. It's the same book. It's a kind of revised edition of the book from last year, and I think
Mhm.
it would be great, awesome. I think it'll be good for you to revisit it and redo those exercises, because as you move forward and as you grow, um, it's important that we keep inventory of our progress, but also see maybe in some areas where we might have reverted, or where life has actually hit us with some more traumas around our voice. And it's like, oh crap, I got to reframe that too. So, like, really going through and digging in, um, and refreshing your mind, your heart, your soul, your spirit, and rededicating yourself to the process of growth is so important. Okay. That was a not in It was a long introduction that was not intended, but I felt like it was something that we needed to talk through or share. So for tonight, as always, we're going to do a quick recap. Super quick, and we'll start with the technique, and then we'll talk through what the heart is. We'll probably go between the technique and the heart, and then find balance. I really want to dig in tonight on the heart and how important our hearts are and how they inform our sound, how they inform our voice, how our heart informs our voice, but then also how our heart and being able to utilize this beautiful tool that God has put in us. It's amazing how powerful the heart is. How to utilize that, and even the technique around utilizing your heart to engage and communicate with your tribe. Um, there are really some cool ways to do so. So, um, we'll find the balance. We know the rules. If you have a question, raise your hand. I know we're gonna respect people. Most of you all are watching the replay anyway, so you won't have time to chime in, which is awesome. No, sir. But yeah, that's it. It's really straightforward and simple. So again, thank you so much for joining in. Our last session, session two, was about discovering the superpower within and how your superpower is the very thing that resonates from the core of who you are. We'll get into that some more, and how your heart actually is the source of that superpower. We discussed, and we did a exercise where we really sat, meditated, and took a trip down memory lane throughout the course of who we are, to remember who God purposed us to be and the things He spoke over us when it was time to come to earth. And we did a little exercise that helped us use that part of our imagination to engage what we really have inside. If you did not see that, again, I would encourage you to download um, part two of this series, because I feel like that exercise is so, first of all, it's so peaceful too. It is so helpful, because one of the first things, even with singing and speaking, even practicing, one of the things we teach people, and I teach people, is how to visualize a performance before it happens, how to visualize yourself and visualize the crowd before it happens. Any athlete, any professional musician, anybody that does this for a living, they visualize something before it happens, and then they step into it when it's time to happen. And so the exercise of visualization, using your imagination, slowing down, and remembering something that has already happened, it takes you out of the confines and limitations of time and puts you into a place where you can truly embrace who you are. And that's what this is all about: embracing who you are, stripping off limitations, using your mind to kind of move through, and you're using your mind, your imagination, to move through and embrace all that you are too. So that was discovering the superpower within. Um, we did another exercise, which is in your workbook. And if you have not gotten the workbook, please feel free to download that as well on the website. But I want you to take this journal prompt, is for you to really focus on, again, visualization, and taking the moments to close your eyes, picture what you would be doing if you had no fear, if bravery and courage were not the thing that's hindering you. If you actually had the boldness, if you were free and you were ready to do this, what would that look like? So visualizing that is super important as well, because it's so important that you step into um, the person and the power that you already possess. We discussed the trauma and the fears, especially in the first session, because with trauma, with fear, our frequencies are diminished. Our frequencies um, are rigid. they're harsh, um, they are dull. And when you don't address those things, you can kind of allow, you definitely allow those frequencies to kind of run haywire within. So it's important to address and acknowledge we're going to go through anxiety. We're going to have depression. We're going to battle things because we're human. But it's important that you acknowledge it, address it, and then learn how to reframe that and reshape that. And that's what the first session was all about, learning how to remember, understand, reflect on what it is that you dealt with, face it. When you don't acknowledge something, you bury it and it gets suppressed and it lingers underneath and it comes out subconsciously. People can feel it and sense it. And that's what, even with this talking about the heart, that's what we'll get into today, because whether or not you know it, if you don't deal with those traumas and fears, or if you don't deal with who you really are and acknowledge those things, it's felt before it's even heard. It's felt. People can feel anxiety. People can feel when you're trying to force something. People can feel it and they can't put their, they don't know always what that looks like and what that means technique wise, but they can feel it and they'll choose whether to listen to you, love you, or not. So that's important to deal with that. So, um, we discussed how your power always comes from within. It's a common intangible element that anyone can do, but it's typically something that shocks you when you do it because of how it comes out. It's typically something that comes naturally to you, but needs to be harnessed. So your power is powerful. You are powerful. And can you just say that? I am powerful. I am,
I am powerful.
yes, I am
I
powerful.
am powerful.
Powerful. And knowing that, and then now being able to harness that in and direct it is the key. You can feel something shift, and so can others when you use that power. When you step into who you are, despite traumas and fears, and let loose and enjoy who you are and enjoy that power, that is felt. And there's a shift that happens because your power is powerful. And anytime you can say something and say it, I don't know if this ever happened to you, but you say something, you're so passionate and you believe it so much, everybody else is like, yeah, like you, it becomes contagious. That's the power that you possess. And if we use that and direct it in a way that um, is so honest within, you can literally transform you, your surroundings, and the lives of people. Lastly, we discussed the frequency. What frequency is, the vibration and oscillation measured over a specific period of time, usually 1 second, excuse me. In layman terms, it's simply a repeating sequence. And in this video I'm going to show you tonight, we'll discuss what the frequency does and how it looks in the vibrational frequency. We talked about how love and gratitude and just expressing your love and moving out of love and gratitude, colors and shapes creates a beautiful shape even in the water. um, your surroundings and the molecules around you respond to who you are. Scripture says all of creation's in Romans, it says all of creation is waiting for the manifestation of the sons of God, and it's groaning. When we walk in our power, creation responds to that, because we're sons, we're daughters, we are children of God, the Most High. And because of that, because we were created beings in the likeness of God, we say, let there be, every single time we open our mouths. We say, let there be. We can have the life and death are in the power of the tongue. So we can say, let there be fear, or we can say, let there be love. We can say, let there be doubt, or we can say, let there be hope and faith. Let there be. And anytime we move in a frequency that is in fear, doubt, depression, anything opposite or contrary to love and gratitude, we're actually saying, let there be, through our beings, our body, through the sound that comes out of us to those negative things. So now we're learning how to transform that and speak and resonate from a place of let there be love, let there be faith, let there be peace, let there be bravery, let there be joy, let there be all those things. In that, as we walk in that and step into that, we create that in our surroundings. And that's what this is all about. That makes sense? Okay.
Yes.
Good, good, good. Okay, so again, there's some different ways to even raise our frequency: prayer and gratitude, meditation and breathing. So even in spaces where it is lento and very slow and just very like um it's hard to concentrate because our minds are moving. It's important to still our minds and center ourselves. So meditation and breathing is very important. Exercise and healthy eating. I don't know about y'all, but I can tell a difference, an immediate difference when I eat something that does not sit well with me or is not good for me. I can feel it immediately. Um, it's low resonating, it's low frequency. That low frequency, again, if it's ingested, it comes out of our bodies, and that's what we're putting, so we have to think about that. Exercise, again, it boosts who you are. Your heart moves, your organs start to move, everything comes into line. You feel good because you're breathing in air and you're like you're using all that you were created to be. The blood is pumping, your heart is pumping, and that's important. Forgiveness is not so much for the other person, even though it does benefit them, it frees them from your grip, but forgiveness is for you. So being able to forgive yourself for mistakes you made, being able to constantly relinquish uh, any type of um, grievance or anything that has been done to you, and said, I forgive, I forgive, I forgive, I let go, I forgive. It releases that and it frees your space up. It frees you up and it frees them up from the hold. That's how powerful you are. So powerful. Lastly, consuming high vibe music, books, media. Watch what you listen to, watch what you consume, watch what you um, keep in your surroundings. Again, because that's also saying, let there be around you. So you need to be able to know what's being communicated around you and free up your space from anything low vibrational. All right. Awesome. So we talked in the first session about how sound is formed, and this is where the technique comes in. All right. So some of you, many of you, I know those on the call have at least had one voice lesson. You've had few, and we um, always start, which is funny because of just even how we were created. We always start with the breath. The breath is the center and the core of how sound is shaped, how sound is controlled, how sound is produced and sent out through the air. So breathing and
Hey, madam. Sorry.
oh, it's okay. Diaphragmatic breathing. So the diaphragm is an umbrella muscle that forms a dome shape at the base of your rib cage. When the diaphragm contracts, it flattens and creates more space and less pressure in the chest cavity. This reduced pressure causes air to flow into the lungs. When the diaphragm relaxes, air flows out of the lungs as the umbrella muscle reforms the dome. So then the intercostal muscles that fill the gaps between the ribs, provide structure and flexibility for upper body when you breathe. They allow your rib cage to expand and contract. So again, connecting, and which is why meditation is so important too. Because when you slow down and focus on your breath, focus on how you produce that breath, you actually connect with your body even more. And if breathing is the central part of how your sound is shaped, then you want to make sure you do that consistently. You want to make sure, I mean, we breathe all the time, but breathing properly is so necessary. All right, so for those that don't know how to breathe or where your rib cage is, Vanessa, can you tell me where your rib cage, your diaphragm is? Excuse me.
Um, inside, beneath the chest. I know I was gonna get tested.
Yes, ma'am. Because you have had a voice lesson.
Yes, I am.
So where is it? It says it right on this description too.
Oh, I'm sorry. What page are we on the book?
Can you
I
see my
apologize.
can you see my slides?
No, ma'am. I'm just trying.
Ah,
Oh no, I didn't know.
my bad. No, it's my fault.
Okay.
There we go. Can you see them now?
Yes, I can read it. Do you want
Blessed be the name of God. I was doing all these slides and nobody could see them.
the
All
name
right.
of
So
the Lord? Okay.
these slides will be in the replay too. You'll get a copy of these slides. So where is the diaphragm? It says it right in the description.
Diaphragm is the umbrella muscle that forms a dome shape at um, at the base of your rib cage. When the diaphragm contracts, it flattens and creates more space and less pressure in the chest cavity. This reduced pressure causes air to flow into the lungs. When the diaphragm relaxes, air flows out of the lungs as the umbrella muscle reforms the dome.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So if you had to point to where the diaphragm is, where is it? Good, good. So can you see that picture?
Yes.
Blessed be. Okay. So,
Oh,
all right. So good. So this is exactly what we just read. The air flows in when you breathe in through your nose or through your mouth. The air blows. The air comes in. This umbrella flattens up, and then it contracts when you relax. Or it relaxes. Excuse me. It contracts when you breathe in, and it relaxes and kind of goes back down when you breathe out. Okay, so it goes like that, and then it goes down. That, and it goes down. So with that, again, even as we're breathing and learning the foundation, our relaxation is so important. Even when the diaphragm flattens and you feel it, it actually goes like this inside. It looks like that. All right. You want to keep your muscle, your shoulders down, your chest down, and just breathe in and engage. Even in that, there's I don't know if you feel it, but there is a relaxation that takes place even in breathing from the diaphragm. As babies, when we're born, 9 times out of 10 we're on our backs, and we naturally breathe in our diaphragm, which is why from our diaphragm, which is why, and I said this in one of our sessions, but babies are so loud when they cry, because they have that control and the power because they're breathing naturally the way they were created to. You have a question, V?
yeah, I was just gonna add to it. I'm sorry. I hope that's okay.
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, like, even when the meditation that you were talking about, I remember last year you gave me the YouTube video, and just breathing in, "This is the day that the Lord has made, I shall rejoice and be glad in it," is so helpful. And I practice that like every day. Every day I do that.
So helpful.
I need that.
It's so helpful. I love
Oh,
it.
I
How
did.
does it go? This
I'll
is
send
the
you.
what? Okay.
I'll send you the video. So there's actually it's called The Mindful Christian. Um, there's a woman that I follow. Actually, Valerie, I can this we'll do this too in our sessions, but she's really, really, really good. Um, let me see. That's another way that I do my declarations and my scripture memorization, especially for my sister, Valerie, um, because I use it, there it is, um, as a way to center and connect myself with the Father versus me trying to force anything. So I'm gonna send this to you right now. I got it. I'm actually putting it in the chat. Oh yeah. All right. All right. So it's in the chat and text it to you. Um, but yes, so one of the biggest things is definitely breathing. Sorry, you guys, I've had to send that message. I got it out. And if you all want it, I will put that in the email with the replay information as well. So you'll see it and be able to download it. But again, this is the Mindful Christian. And I think it's very helpful being able to connect and center yourself through breathing, through listening to your breath. There are things, you know, in meditation even called breath work, but centering your breath and being able to be in tune with it. When do we have time to do that throughout the day? Like, stuff is so busy and stuff is, and life keeps you distracted. And when you're distracted, 9 times out of 10, what you say, what you sing, actually comes from a distracted place. So you learn to sing from distracted. You learn to sing unintentionally. You learn how to speak unintentionally from a place of distraction because that's all around you. But when you connect and you slow down, it goes back to what we said at the beginning, slow down to the speed of life, slow down and absorb everything. You'll actually hear more, you can flow easier, and you'll be in tune with what's happening. So, breathing, breathing in and engaging that muscle, keeping your shoulders down, keeping your chest down, and just letting that diaphragm or those lungs fill up, okay? Super important. Can you see the slides still? Awesome.
Yes, we can.
Awesome. So again, you should feel an expansion in your stomach. You're going to feel it all around, expansion in your sides. Your back gets wider. Everything kind of expands around you when you're breathing correctly. We're not going to get into uh tons of technique, but I will let you do this just again so you can understand how this works, especially for singing. So, um you're going to take a deep breath in or take a quick breath in using your diaphragm. You can breathe in through your nose and then release. So we're going to breathe in again and release for 10 counts, slow release. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good. Let it all out. Breathe in again. Good. Release. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right. You can do a quick breath in and sigh out. So do it again. Really feel that core. You're gonna actually feel it, the tension there. Just keep your shoulders down and just push out. that dog pant, we skipped to step 3, but that dog pant is really helpful to get the air and the oxygen flow throughout your system and throughout your blood. Um, the snake hiss is another breathing exercise I typically do with my students, where we breathe in for on a count of 4 and then we release. I try to get you to release in increments of 5 up to like 35 to 40 seconds of hissing. So it's like being able to hold that air for 45 seconds and consistently have a consistent airflow is a practice, but it also relaxes you, and it allows you to connect the diaphragm, build that muscle while also centering your heart, your body, everything. It centers everything. So that's another good practice. Breathing in for 4 counts, releasing on a hiss, but a steady airflow. I would start with 15 seconds and then go up to 20, then 25, then 30, then 35, then 40, then 45. If you can get to 50, praise God. But try it without passing out. You're going to feel lightheaded. Any of these, especially if you're not used to doing this, don't be alarmed if you ever start to feel lightheaded or even tired, because now you're using a part of your body and you're breathing in your lungs that you have probably very rarely ever tapped into. When I was in high school, I ran track, and my mom used to run track, but so she used to tell me like I had bad asthma, and so she used to tell me, she's like, um, if you break through a barrier, this breathing, it's gonna hurt. It's gonna really hurt. But if you get through that barrier of it hurting, it's like your lungs expand, everything opens up, and you actually build your capacity. That is so huge in life. And actually, I ran out the asthma. I don't have asthma anymore. Like, and I could run and sing because I broke through that barrier. And that's what happens when you do these exercises, whether it be breathing exercises, vocal exercises in itself, even when we start doing different exercises with our voice, whether it be like a just to the scale, but doing something like that, a lot of times we call it like a vocal break. If you're not used to getting from the your chest voice into your falsetto voice and you hear this little crack in it, that's a vocal break. It's being able to smooth over that break that actually helps you strengthen your sound and build the capacity of what you're able to do. So if something's breaking you, if something is breaking, please know that it is a moment of God building your capacity, building what you're able to handle, building what you're able to work through and work around and navigate. You're being strengthened. Even when our muscles, if we lift weights, your muscles rip, they tear, they break in order to be rebuilt. So a lot of times we don't recognize that even these exercises are an example of what's happening within. When we're building ourselves and we're trying to build and strengthen our voices, technique and the way we do it is going to cause us to break. Some of it, it's going to sound horrible. Some of it, you're going to feel like, I cannot do this. But if you push through it and break through, you will have the capacity to do what it is that you hear and need to do. It starts with your breathing, though. All right. Technique, even more. Why do we need vocal warm-ups? I kind of talked about that. But why do you need to warm up your voice? Why do you think?
It's important to warm up your voice so that you don't have harsh glottal attacks and that you also don't break your voice. When you're singing, you don't want vocal cracks or you don't want to lose your voice. I've experienced losing my voice before and needing rest. So that's an important reason why you need to warm up. Yeah.
Good. Um, can you explain in layman terms what glottal attacks are?
Harsh glottal attacks. Uh, I guess like,
Actually, just did it.
huh?
Ah.
Yeah, yeah. That's an example. I don't,
Yes.
can you further explain, Auntie? Thank
Okay.
you.
No, good. So, uh, it is a glottal attack is usually, and a harsh one is usually when your vocal folds hit hard at like so inside of your throat box, your larynx, there's the vocal folds. When we do not properly breathe and we do not properly warm up or even get our voice conditioned to sing or even speak, we can have the propensity to cause our vocal cords to hit something, whether it be too hard or too high or, whatever it is with no control. We can cause our vocal cords to hit hard and they can create nodules. So, ah, if you don't warm up, that hurts. It actually hurts. And so if you ever sung and it's like this is painful, and if you've probably had that question, does it hurt to sing? And if it does, that means you're actually having a harsh glottal attack and you are not singing from a proper place, which is from your diaphragm, which is through proper technique. So understanding that you can sing hard, you can sing loud, but being able to condition yourself. Anytime we ran, and anytime you do any type of exercise, it's important to warm up because your muscles need to be warm. If they're cold, again, your vocal folds, your diaphragm, all of that, those are muscles. If they're cold, they can crack easily. They will crack easier. They can get damaged easily. Just like with exercise, if you lift weights or you're running and you don't warm up prior to running or stretch prior to running, you can break something. Something can snap. So you want to make sure that you are able to comfortably sing and extend your range within the vocal warm-ups before singing so you don't damage your voice. So there's a difference between breaking and damage. You can the difference is something has to break through. There's a threshold that has to break. But you can do it without damaging by understanding proper breathing, proper technique. And then a lot of times I say working with somebody to kind of coach you through those places that you don't know that are there. But I'm going to share some basic vocal warm ups. You can do them on your own, and then we'll go through what this means. So, a yawn sign. So, yawning and sighing. Um, you take in air with your mouth closed. Yeah, that's it. It should make you yawn. Just that in itself relaxes and allows you to slide down um, the notes. It starts opening it up without it being harsh. Humming, you can do closed humming or open humming. So closed humming, I can actually start. And as it gets higher and you start feeling like, oh, it's too high, you can go into your head voice. The key is it for it the key of this is for it not to be harsh or hard, but to kind of just smooth and slide you into it. Open mouth hums, same thing. You put the tip of your tongue at the bottom of the teeth and block like that bottom, that back part of your throat. And you very well might yawn. And that's actually really good because it stretches, it opens you up, and it allows you to kind of like feel relaxed. Lip trills or tongue trills. I typically do lip trills, but tongue trills are the same thing. I start on the note G. Where's my keyboard? Here it is. Or breathe in, breathe in, it's a messy one. Okay, so that's another one.
If you can't do the tongue, can you just do the lip trills?
You sure can. So the
Okay.
lip trills are the, but again, with all of these, you want to make sure that you are breathing. You must breathe. So with the lip trills, with any of these, a lot of times what I'll do is like a, to make sure I'm actually able to engage that. And you want to feel that in your core. Feel that in your gut. It becomes a gut exercise, core exercise, okay? So you want to make sure you're breathing in. All right, keeping yourself as still and as straight and controlled as possible. 2-octave pitch glides are another thing that I typically do. So ooh, it can be, or that's the same as sirens and slides too. But breathing in and hitting that top note and then sliding down. It's okay if you can't necessarily get that starting note or that top note. It's okay. The idea is for you just to open up. Open up that top range without it being harsh and without it hurting. If it's hurting, stop. If it hurts, don't do it because something's happening that's wrong and we need to adjust that and what that feels like. All right. The slidings, woo! One of the things I typically do, especially if I'm trying to warm up, is woo! 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 Doing those also help wake up that top register and that bottom register. So again, if it hurts, don't do it. I know not all of us are singers, and so sometimes singing is like, or hearing these notes may be a little weird, but if you're talking, you can do the lip trill without doing a full-on scale or something. Just wake up and engage that, but also make sure you're always breathing correctly, because speakers as well, you can hurt your voice and damage your voice from speaking too harshly or not knowing where you're speaking from. And if you have to speak consistently, it's important to make sure that you're using your voice and conserving your energy, your voice, and your air properly. So making sure you're engaging that core still and waking up those muscles, waking up all of this is going to help you. You can do the slides too. Woo! Or woo! You sound crazy. You might want to do it in public. In private. You can do it in your room, in your car, whatever. And then if you don't, like green room, whatever. But yeah, people gonna look at you like you're crazy, but that's okay.
No, definitely do it in public.
So again, there's several different ways to expand and build your technique, but resonance is pretty much what we were just talking about, being able to properly resonate through proper breathing, utilizing your mouth, utilizing your muscles, utilizing all of these to shape the air and that sound. Okay, vocal dynamics are always how loud, being able to control that through your breath. So one exercise I do as a singer is I do vocal ahs, but I'll start off really like or like a all right, doing those help you control that sound. If I'm singing a song, I use Twinkle Twinkle Little Star a lot. But twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. So high. And I play with the sound and the dynamics so that I can just have control over what's happening. Pitch, accuracy, and flexibility. Your vocal exercises are supposed to assist with your pitch accuracy. So listening for how in tune you are versus maybe I'm not so in tune. So having a keyboard around or even recording yourself is really helpful. Range extension, vocal exercises should definitely help your range extension as well. So if you're not pushing yourself past a comfort zone, then your vocal exercises as well as warm-ups need to be adjusted. Okay. So these are just some of the ways that these can help. And again, having a coach and somebody sit down and work with you through the technique is important. The technique, all the technique is for you to have a solid foundation on how to execute your sound. Again, your sound is how the notes come out, the timbre, the texture, the tone of what you have, but then your voice is going to actually be your heart. And so marrying those two and being able to utilize that technique, utilize your ability to breathe properly, utilize your ability to use vocal dynamics and resonate properly, utilizing your strength and pitch accuracy and flexibility, and then your range is going to help you when it's time now to execute your voice. All right. There's another exercise that I like to do for speakers and for singers. Mending, mumbling mice or making midnight music in the moonlight, mighty nice. Mumbling mice are making midnight music in the moonlight, mighty nice. This is a great exercise for breathing, pitch, and dynamics. So you can start off in these. You see the little microphone is supposed to be quiet and then it gets bigger. And then there's another page where we do it backwards, but it's like a nice. Diction is also important. So how you pronounce those words. Mice. We're making midnight music in the moonlight by T. Nice. All right, being able to throw your sound in your voice. That all comes from proper breathing. Starting off from the top where it's louder and then gets quieter. Many bubbling mice are making midnight music in the moonlight. Nice. Being able to control that all stems from breath. I'm going to give you one more vocal breathing exercise. This one is really fun. This exercise improves singing by increasing your cardiovascular strength and breath stamina. So one thing you want to do is breathe in. One by one they went away. One by one and two by two they went away. One by one and two by two and three by three they went away. One by one and two by two and three by three and four by four they went away. One by one and two by two and three by three and four by four and five by five they went away. So if you can get up there, it's similar to the hissing, but now you're using your voice and you're using words to kind of carry that air. If you can get up to 10, that's awesome. One by one and two by two and three by three and four by four and five by five and six by six and seven by seven and eight by eight and nine by nine and 10 by 10 they went away. All in one breath, keeping the same volume. It builds that core. Builds that core. So this is a great exercise to do. If you want to try it, you sure can. Yeah. How did you do? Was that hard?
No. Me? Yeah, no, that was great.
Okay, can you get up to, let's try 12.
Okay. Do you want me to be muted or unmuted?
Either way.
One by one and two by two and three by three and four by four and five by five and six by six and seven by seven and eight by eight and nine by nine and 10 by 10 and 11 by 11 and 12 by 12. They went away.
Okay, so good. But what I'm hearing is the fluctuation in your voice and how you're projecting. So you should maintain the same level. One by one and two by two and three by three and four by four and five by five and six by six and seven by seven and eight by eight and nine by nine and 10 by 10 and 11 by 11 and 12 by 12 they went away. One voice, one sound. And keep
Okay.
it one more time and really enunciate.
One by one and two by two and three by three and four by four and five by five and six by six and seven by seven and eight by eight and nine by nine and 10 by 10 and 11 by 11 and 12 by 12 they went away.
Good, that's your goal. So you want to get up to 12 without it being tight. It got tight near the end.
At the end.
Yep. So you want to get up there and be able to get that and then push yourself past that. And that's for any of the exercises. When you notice they start getting harder, push yourself past that. Try to get the next time you rehearse it or practice that, go up to the next one. Go ahead. Yeah.
So
Huh?
Oh, saying, Dollar, if you want to do that too, you can do it.
We'll try. One by one and two by two and three by three and four by four and five by five and six by six and seven by seven and eight by eight and nine by nine and 10 by 10 and 11 by 11 and 12 by 12 they went away.
Good. One thing I would say too is making sure you just breathe and control and stabilize that breath. Can't speed up either, even when it gets when you know you're getting up higher, keep that pace the same, all right?
Okay.
Control it and sustain it. But
so
once you get to a point like you can go up to 14, 15, like just keep building yourself up and sliding yourself up the more you get there, even with the notes, as you get to a point where you feel it start to, woo, this is high. See if you can get to the next one and then bring yourself back down. Work your
that practice, I'm sorry, that
Uh,
form of practice, what is that helping with again?
which form?
This one.
The one that we were just working on, the
One
one
by
by
one.
they went away. Yeah.
It improves your breath control and stamina. Your biggest thing is your stamina and being able to maintain the breath, being able to speak within that breath and keep the same volume, keep the same pace without losing it.
God,
Okay?
thank you.
Absolutely. All right. Any other questions about all of that? Those are the basics of technique. And of course, everybody has their own weaknesses. They have their own tough spots, and those are really helpful to kind of go through with a coach. But the foundation of technique, again, the foundation of technique, and technique does what for you? You can answer that question. What does technique do?
Um, I'm gonna assume that it kind of helps you with being on point. Once you know the technique, then and you have a particular form that you follow, and you're not hurting, your voice or, your flow, then you can then flow with the heart, right? That's what I'm thinking. Because if you don't have the technique and you're all over the place and you end up hurting yourself and then you don't sound great. But if you have if you have the technique starts first because then you become a little bit more versed with what you're doing. Once you have the technique and you have the control, then you can ad lib and you can do all the other things that you can do and insert the heart because now you can control it. I think I have heart and I have a great voice, but I don't have the technique. So at some point, it just kind of goes out of control. So that's how I look at technique, I think.
That's very good. Exactly. And I agree. Technique does. So it's almost like a sandwich. It's really like a sandwich because typically your heart does come first. Um, your heart, remember, your voice stems from your heart. And what comes as a kid, you hear a kid sing whatever it is, can be Jesus loves you. Jesus loves me, this I know. And from that kid, it can be the voice, purest voice. And that's from the heart. They don't know nothing about technique. They could be singing completely wrong, but it touches you. Yes, ma'am. Oh, I thought you had your hands up. Um, but as you grow, now the parent hears the kids singing and you see that they have a beautiful voice. Well, let's get them some lessons so that they can not damage that beautiful voice. They can take care of it. So it's almost like the technique becomes one, the case, the protective case that you put your instrument in and keeps it from breaking, it keeps it from being damaged, it keeps it from going through the turmoil of improper utilization. Um, our sound or our vocal cords and all that stuff, it's our bodies. So understanding the technique, what we put in our bodies, understanding all of that, how we exercise, how we utilize our bodies can and will affect our sound and will affect our technique. So it becomes a sandwich. So then it's like heart, technique, heart, going back to that. And then you find that balance, you find a good medium of, you know, all the other stuff inside, like the the riffs and the runs and all of that stuff become like the meat and cheese and mayo and all that stuff on the sandwich. That becomes color, you know? Um, so in this, understanding that your breathing is going to be foundational, vocal warm-ups is going to be foundational, and this is for singing. But then there's also technique to engaging your heart and understanding not only your heart, but understanding what's happening in a room. Have you ever seen something when people are like, read the room, read the room? You've heard that. Somebody says something at the wrong time because they're not reading the room. You're reading the room through your heart. I'm gonna play this video really quickly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Can you all see this? Okay.
Organ. Now, your brain processes data, but your true awareness is a deeper being and it's more connected to the heart. And this is a new area of science, and I'm going to go through this tonight. So, cardiognosis comes from the heart. The key organ is the heart. And you could call it awareness. So when you talk about a person and say, are they a good person? We often say they have a good heart, because the heart is the main frequency that you put out of the body. It's your main, it's got a network of neurons in it. It's got over 40,000 neurons inside it. It's also responsible for creating a wave pattern that goes throughout your whole body, and it sends 4 times more signals up to your brain than it gets from your brain. In fact, the heart regulates the brain. And another amazing thing about the heart is the heart knows the future before it happens. They've done many, many experiments now where they'll show people images on a screen and they're measuring the brain and the heart will know if it's a good or bad image before the brain does. So the heart is actually the organ that senses the future as well. And I'm going to come back to that in a minute. So what we're looking at today is to activate this to another level. How would you like to be in a business meeting and know whether you should do business with a person? Or what if somebody says, I want you to meet a friend, they're really great. Do you want to go by the person's word, or do you want to go by the truth? So let's say you're invited to talk to a president of a nation. They might have a reason for calling you in, but you've got to be able to see in the heart and speak from the heart. And often people say to me, how did you know that? How did you know that about me? Because it's not facts, it's about the heart. And the heart is emotions. The heart is a vibration. The heart is love. So sometimes we say somebody smells fishy, for example. It's a common saying in British culture. A person might smell fishy. So smelling is what? A fragrance. When you're smelling someone, you've got a fragrance that comes, and it's a frequency. It's not an actual nose. It's a frequency in your heart where you detect the signal the person's putting out. Or have you been in a room with someone that's depressed and you suddenly feel depressed? Or you're with someone who's joyful and you feel joyful. Why is that? Because if we go to the, I'm not sure if it's in the next slide or not. I don't think it is. It might be further along. Our heart fields interact. I'm going to come back to that in a second. Okay, right. So the dictionary, in my book, Beyond Human, I defined using dictionary.com what telepathy is. It's the communication between people of thoughts, feelings, desires, involving mechanisms which cannot be understood in terms of known scientific laws. Now, here's the first point here, is that those kind of definitions are totally false, because science does understand these laws and has been studying them for over 80 years now. So this book here, Entangled Minds, if you want to get one book that will show you 80 years worth of research on this is a brilliant book. They've done studies with husbands and wives. They find they go into heart sync at night, and their rhythms go into union. They found that we can know things remotely with twin studies, where they show a light to a twin, and the other twin in the other room will show on brain scans that they can see the light. People hug each other and remotely, and they'll show that they are being hugged. And I've written loads of notes in here because it even shows we've got precognition, that in our hearts we can read the future. Now, this is all science. This is not woohoo. This is not weird. These are empirical studies that for the last 80 years or more, in fact, 90 years. So in 1882, the name telepathy was conjured up, 1882. So it's not a new age idea. In fact, it's in every culture in the world. So it's in every society, every culture. It's throughout the Bible and it's throughout time. So it's not a new age idea. It used to be called thought transference or
So I'm bringing this up because there's a couple of things with it. When we talk about singing, and when we talk about speaking, and when we talk about utilizing our superpower, understanding what we have, and when we talk about all these things and coming into connection, it's all connected. Our heart is a sensor, and it's going to pick up again what we put in it, but also what's happening around. So for all of us on this call and for many of us watching, we lead worship. We sing in a place where we are put in a position to not only pick up the frequency of heaven and of God, but we're also ministering and lifting up the frequency of the room. We need to be able to, and he calls it cardionosis, and I love this session, but he calls it cardionosis because we can know through our hearts what's needed in a room. When it comes down to even preparing for an audition, sometimes we don't get things because we're not following our heart. We're not trusting our gut on what to sing, what to do, because we are just using our brains. 9 times out of 10, you'll know and can pick up from your heart, I really think I should do this song. I really feel I should do this. And it's important to be able to apart from the technique, apart from all the stuff that you know to be quote unquote right, what is your heart telling you in that moment? What are you picking up in that moment? So slowing down, breathing, again, slowing down to the speed of life, slowing down to the speed of your heartbeat. Even as you breathe and close your eyes and learn how to meditate, you can actually hear and feel your heart. You can put your hand on your heart and you can breathe and pick up what's happening. But it's important to start practicing that and engaging that and honoring your heart. Meaning, okay, I know this in theory. I know how to do this. I can do that. But again, what am I sensing and what am I feeling? So there'll be times, even as I'm singing, and let's just say again, I don't know, Vanessa, you've heard me lead worship, but you've never been in the room. I know Valerie has, but one of the things that I've had to practice over the years is literally sensing and picking up a room quickly, and listening for what's happening in the room. So there will be moments when there's silence, because I know that there needs to be silence, or I sense that there needs to be silence. There's also moments when I know I have to, there might be a thing where, again, I utilize my voice and I have different textures and tones. So knowing that's a part of the technique, knowing what your voice can do. So if I know I have, I'm trying to think of a song. Oh, so we did, I'm trying to think. Your light can drown our darkness and bring our joy to light. We won't submit to sorrow. Our joy is coming in the morning. Sometimes I might hold it out if it's needed. Or your light can drown out darkness and bring our joy to light. We won't submit to sorrow. Our joy is coming. Your joy is coming. My joy is coming in the morning. It's coming right now. In the morning. It all depends on what's needed because of what I'm picking up in a room.
You
So
better worship.
you can feel in a moment what's needed. So there'll be moments when I'm sensing in me, one, I need to break some things off, or I need to be in a position where I'm actually not holding back, because my freedom and my not holding back is actually going to cause somebody else to be free and not hold back. So especially there's different sides of this. So especially in worship and being able, but I utilize this in every setting where I can go in, I can feel it with my team. Oh my gosh, that dog is gorgeous. I can feel it with my team. I can feel what's around me, what's happening musically. All of this is heart. So when we say balance the heart with the technique, it's one, knowing what you have the ability to do, understanding what your strengths are, understanding what your weaknesses are, understanding how to utilize the tool. But then now, heart says, I'm reading what's happening, what's needed, not what's going to get people to respond. It's not what you do that necessarily gets people to respond. It's how you feel and what they feel that gets them to respond. I've seen people run somebody into the ground, all these riffs and runs, but you feel absolutely not a daggone thing. Not a daggone thing. But I've heard one person hold a note and just just the way they sung it, and like it just pulls at you because they were singing from a place from their heart, but also it hit a frequency, again, there goes that word, that resonated with someone else. So how do you do that? One, it takes a lot of slowing down. That's like the biggest thing. We naturally, again, because we all have hearts, our heart is pumping, we naturally have a sensor that if we tune into it, you can determine whether or not you're feeling sad, somebody else in a room is feeling sad. You can determine whether you're feeling tired, somebody right next to you is actually really exhausted, and they might need you to touch their shoulder, give them a hug. There are moments, even in, again, I'm using worship setting because that's where I'm singing mostly now, or I'm recording. Two totally different mediums. I have to use both. Primarily, I use my heart when recording to determine what notes need to be put down, how I need to sing a phrase, what is going to actually give it the most impact. But for worship, I'm using my heart to pick up not only what God feels and what's happening in the room for the people and what God wants to do in a room, and listening for that, making room for that. But then I'm also picking up, maybe I need to walk down this aisle right now because I'm seeing something that needs to be pushed out. And knowing that when I walk down an aisle, because I am powerful. Because I recognize that I am powerful and that God has given me a powerful, but the God in me is also powerful, that when I walk through and I sing something, it can actually remove and calm down or subdue that fear at that moment. It can actually lift people up. I can touch somebody's shoulder and they'll get, like they'll feel it too. It's all a part of utilizing that heart. So he also talks about the telepathy. And it's funny because with a musician and as a musician, it's so cool to watch this happen. The more you get to know somebody or work with somebody, you can actually pick up on what they're going to do next without them saying a word. You can pick it up immediately. So when singing with a group or singing with another, like you have an instrumentalist with you, being able to pick up, both of you all being able to feed off each other. A lot of times, our musical director, our minister of music, I don't have to say a word sometimes, and he'll know, and I'll hear him in my talk back or his talk back saying, we're about to go to the bridge. I've already thought that through. I just haven't held the signal up. He'll say it because he's already ahead, but the heart is connected. It's a field. So the more you practice that, the more you engage, but the more you slow down, it's going to help you engage. Does that make sense? Have you experienced
Absolutely.
anything like this?
Thank you.
Yeah, no, you're welcome. Have you experienced anything like this before?
In worship, yes. Not so much the telepathy part, but when you're working with a group of people, myself, I used to this is a short story about me. I led worship at Jubilee Christian Church and for 3 years. And we would practice, but during the times that we would practice, it was like God was already in the room, and like we were already like having a revelation as to what is going to happen before we even go into worship. But everything that you're saying, I relate to. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, no, I was just wondering if you've ever experienced it. Yeah, absolutely does.
I haven't experienced it per se in worship. Um, but what he was saying about feeling some things and being in sync with some things, or your heart knowing that something bad is gonna happen in advance of it happening, that's happened a few times where my heart is like, something's about to happen, something's about to happen. It's big, it's big, it's big, but my mind can't wrap around it. And I try to kind of like minimize it, but then the something big happens. And it's usually connected to either my spouse or somebody close to me. So when he was saying, I was like, oh, and the smell thing that he talked about, one of my friends, she smells people.
Mhm.
But she's like, it's not the stench that somebody carries if they worked out. It's their physical, like it's not a physical smell, it's the smell of their heart or their spirit.
Yeah.
And she'd be like, she can't, she's like, I can't, there's this particular person. She's like, I can't sit in the same car as him. He stinks. And everybody's like, what do you mean? We don't smell nothing. And she sounded crazy for a very long time until recently. This person was arrested for some of the stuff that he was doing that she could sense because she smells him
Mhm.
like that level. So what he was saying just resonated and it was like, oh, then it's not so crazy after all.
It's not. This is how powerful we truly are and how powerful God made us to be. That if we understood that, we could operate not out of this arrogance or this need for power or even manipulation. It's more so an operation of, okay, this is how I can be aware. This is how I can help you. This is how I can avoid certain things. This is how I can pray properly. And so all of this is a part of going even back to the voice, how in Samuel, when King David was called in to play and sing for Saul, it says that, and I didn't mean to preach on this, but I think it's necessary. But when David was called in to play for Saul, one, David had been out in the fields playing for sheep and combating bears and lions and tigers that were trying to attack the shepherds. But he was playing and worshiping alone by himself in that field. But he was one of the first music therapists because he was called in to calm down the evil spirit. And it says in scripture, it calmed down the evil spirit. God had put an evil spirit on Saul to bring David in to minister to that thing, calm it down. God had allowed, and I don't even know if that's the direct translation, but God had allowed this to come over Saul because he was tormented. He was dealing with anxiety. He was dealing with these fears. God allowed David to come in, sit and play his instrument, but sing over this man and drive out that spirit. So we have the ability, as we're practicing, as we're developing this technique, even around us, you can pick up your neighbors and figure out what's happening in their lives and in their homes and start praying and singing over that. Looking past yourself, start singing over the world. What's happening in the world? Remember, all creation is waiting for the manifestation of the sons of God. And so with that power and that authority and that ability, I know people that sing over plants and they grow. I know people, like you can sing over a sick child and speak over and they will get better. So our ability to utilize, that's all heart, but it's also technique because you have to know. Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
As you were saying that, when I was in Costa Rica, and the people I was around, they're like, why do you keep going to the animals? And in the morning I went walking and there were two horses, wild horses, and they were just standing by like a fence. And I stood and I walked really carefully because the first time I did, they ran. So I walked very slowly. I stayed and I sang. And I just kept singing, but I was singing glorifying God, like Holy Spirit and so on and so forth. And one of the horses literally, like slowly made its way to me. And it didn't stay for a long time. Um, but it actually was, I was actually able to touch it and caress it for like a couple seconds, and then it just went back to its partner. But what you're saying is so true and so real. Like it's uncanny to even imagine, but just the frequency or how they hear your heart,
Yes.
right? So, oh, this lady's not here to hurt me. She's not mean. And I had that encounter with several different animals during that period. They're like the animals are coming to you, whether it was dog or or cow or whatever it was. But it really is at the heart of it, the heart. This is trippy, by the way. Just kind of having that experience in Costa Rica and you having to talk about it and just it makes sense.
The heart.
It's the
It,
heart.
it's all the heart. And so that is so cool because I I I've seen videos of people that can communicate with animals and they'll sing and the animals do, like we know dogs hear certain frequencies and that a lot of times humans can't hear, but there's ways that you can sing and communicate to the animal where they will actually feel so connected because they do feel the heart. um, they can pick up things prior to, they either get, if you've been around a dog that does not like a person because they also have some issues, or they can feel that and they can sense it. However, if you are moving from a place of purity and you're resonating high, a dog can come around you that does not know you, that does not like anybody else, babies too. They will cry, 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 but they sit in your lap, or they bark, the dogs bark at other people and they come and sit at your feet and they'll lick you. Like I had a friend of mine, her dog, I never met this dog in my life. Um, she was like, he doesn't like people. He usually barks all the time. This dog was jumping all over me and like sitting, and it wasn't, and I was like, I love the dog, but it wasn't, I wasn't trying to do anything. I wasn't trying to force anything. And that's what happens again, and bringing it back to us singing and our utilizing our voices sometimes because we're in such a performance driven culture. We feel like we have to perform, yet, because we want to impress people, yet we're not impressing anyone, we're actually forcing something. 9 times out of 10 too, we are, because we're forcing something, our cardionosis is actually picking up on what people are feeling, and we're thinking that they're negatively speaking because we're not engaged with our heart, we're not in tune with what we need to deliver emotionally. We're caught up in our heads, and then it comes off force, it comes off whack, sometimes it comes off, like, and so then it perpetuates the very thing we were afraid of. They're not responding. Well, they would respond if you respond to yourself, if you respond to what's in your heart, if you actually get engaged with the emotions. So, part of that too is slowing down. When you meditate and when you breathe, take time to journal. I say it's so important to do that because a lot of times we are not in tune with our heart because we don't know what we're feeling. We find a song that we want to do, we find something that we want to do because we like it, but we have no idea what we feel and we don't feel connected to it. Or we feel connected to it for that moment, but when it's time to do it again, we lost that emotion. Now it's time to perform. The balance is, okay, let's bring it to the middle. Sometimes I may not want to do that song, but what's the heart? What's the emotion? What's happening in the room that this song, that at this moment can be spoken to? Utilizing that. So breathing, meditating, journal. Journal, journal, journal. Journal what you feel first, what's going on internally first. And then I would do a practice of maybe what's happening in the house that you're feeling. What are you picking up around you? What's the core of what's happening? around you. And write it down. If you have to pray, ask Holy Spirit, show me, reveal to me what it is that I'm picking up. Show me how to process this through my heart, these emotions. Show me what song I can even sing in this moment to either eradicate that feeling, that emotion, purify what's happening in the room, bring joy where there's pain, bring hope where there's discouragement. What can I do in my home that does that? It's a beautiful exercise. I didn't know this theoretically when I really started doing this. Actually, I was a kid. I had learned this song, I think first grade. Welcome into this place. Welcome to this broken vessel. You desire to abide in the praises of your people. So we lift our hands and we lift our hearts as we offer up a praise unto your name. So I learned that in like first grade. And I came home in my room, closed the door. My door was probably cracked. And I started singing that song. And my mom told me that she started crying. She heard me singing it, my little voice, first grade. And she's like, I've walked past your room and I could feel like the angels, like I could feel heaven in that moment, because it was just you and God singing. It's just you. Your atmosphere, your room, your home can be changed and shifted by your voice, by your heart, and by you taking little steps and techniques. Embracing the technique of properly breathing, sitting, meditating, feeling, writing, engaging those emotions. Of course, do exercises, vocalize, all of that. That's a part of it, huge part of it. But when it comes down to utilizing your voice, you have to be in tune with your heart. Another, man, I had videos, but I don't think it's necessary. I'll add these. There's so many different performances. It's harder when you're performing. Again, it's different from leading worship, because for me, honestly, that's my safe place. I just love God and I love God's people. However, part of my role and part of my job is to sing anything. And with that, sometimes I have to get into character. And even with the character and character development, I have to get into the character and the heart of that character in order to deliver that song. So, bittersweet memories, that is all I'm taking with me. But I don't know the words. Go. So, but I know. All right. So, like, getting into that moment, what is this woman thinking? And that's all technique though. Will always love you. breathing, dynamics, vocal control, vocal swells, knowing how to use your voice to color that note and shape it, but then also the emotion behind the story. All right. So I actually gave a student this assignment to before this call. And on this assignment, it's not in here. And we just discussed this. I'm actually going to bring the screen back up. But one of the things I would have you do, whether it be singing or speech, I would have you print out that. You need an actual hard copy. Computer's not conducive really for it. You can, but it's just not the same. I would print out that paper, hold that paper, take notes, or write out the lyrics. And you can do a key. You can be as creative as you want to, but do a color key where you might do, okay, there's the lyrics are in black. I'm gonna do blue as technique, all the technique. Like I'm gonna mark up this paper and say where I'm gonna breathe. I'm going to mark up this paper and say where I need to actually crescendo or get louder, or decrescendo, get softer. I'm gonna use this blue marker to state where I need to attack, and then versus release. So attack versus release. So and yeah, my attack was softer. Will always will. That attack was harder, but how did I release that will? Will always love you. How did I release that? So I make notes on that paper with like, okay, I'm gonna attack it hard here on will, and then I'll release on love or whatever it is. I'll make notes of that, breathing, all of that. Then I'll take a red marker or a red pen and I'll say, all right, on the corner, or on that first verse, I need to be really solemn and melancholy. I need to like think about X, Y, and Z. Think about how this felt. And I'll make notes about my emotions and look at that, okay? And then with the purple marker or whatever it is, or whatever you need to do, I would mark out my stage presence. Okay, so now how am I gonna emote this? How am I gonna show my emotions through this? Because I know I can't just stand there and focus on this. Now I have to display what I'm singing through how I use my hands. Okay, so like blue is technique, red is emotions, purple or orange, whatever color you want to use, is going to be stage presence and demonstration, how you're going to utilize this. Okay, when are you going to turn? When are you going to move? Because all of that's connected. And if you can get those three in order and begin to practice that and write it out, it actually becomes second nature the more you do it. I would do that. I would do that to start until you get a habit of it, and then come back. If you have a place to record it or video it, come back, watch yourself, take notes. It takes time, like any athlete does. They go back and study tape, they study their game. As much technique as they have in the moment, they got to execute, and they got heart, they got passion, but I'm gonna go back and watch that. Where did I mess up? Where did I kind of fall? Where could I have done better? That's a part of it too. So that's how you balance, you bring the balance in. Just because you're talented, just because you do have heart, just because you can kind of flow and sing and you got some technique, don't mean that was a good take. We got to go back and watch it. That brings the balance, that brings correction, that brings growth. That makes sense? So I would definitely start off even, so that's a full song with verses and choruses and performance song, but then you have worship songs too. Do the same thing. I actually have my team, and I'm starting to have them do this more. We print out lyrics. We're going to mark this paper up. You're going to breathe here. You're going to release here. You're going to actually watch how you say that word. Don't say that word that way, because it's not giving what it needs to give. We need to say it in a way that actually colors that word and brings the life out of it. But to really get the emotion out of it, people need to understand it. So, thinking that way is really important. And then writing down the emotions next to it. One of the things, even in worship, that I do is repeat verses a lot. A lot of times, especially in today's culture, we use stems a lot. So with the stems or the tracks, you kind of have verse 1, chorus 1, verse 2, chorus 2, bridge, instrumental, chorus out, maybe twice, then you might reprise. So that's typically how it is. I get it. I don't like it. However, I will do verses again because of the words and because of what we're saying, and getting people to say and confess those words is really important. Again, because it's the heart behind what's being said. And then getting that to connect with their heart and not just do it through, oh, I guess I gotta sing now. It's worship time. I'm gonna sing these words, and then when are we done? Because I want to go to lunch. People disconnect. We gotta bring them in. So, um, as we're wrapping up, I'm gonna go through these things. So we got the written down exercise of one, breathing, meditating, examining your room, examining your heart. What are you sensing? What are you picking up? The other thing is to really understand the non-basic emotions that your heart typically picks up. You can pick up joy, you can pick up happiness. You can feel that yourself, sadness, anger, determining what those emotions are, love, um, fear, courage or bravery, surprise, shock, oh my gosh, disgust, and peace. Um, Identifying those emotions are super helpful. What story are you telling? I'm kind of reiterating that. How one exercise in telling the story and even writing this down on your paper that with the lyrics is determining how you feel. How do I feel? This can be even in the breathing and meditation time. How do I feel right now? How often do you ask yourself that question? How often do you ask yourself that question, Vanessa?
Every day.
Okay, and how do you answer?
Um, I be in tune with the Holy Spirit and what God is telling me in the moment. And like, I try to not so focus on my feelings, because I know I can't be caught up so much in fear, because fear is from the devil. But it's hard. It's hard not to, because everybody's living life, and um, sometimes we have different things going on. But how do I feel? Like, I just try to, focus on how I'm feeling, write things down, meditating, praying, um, and yeah, try to focus on the good.
Okay, so that's good. One thing I want you to be aware of, and this is for anybody, I think it's important as humans. Again, this goes back to everything, because even though we might try to focus on something good, and yes, think on the things that are good, right? That bring joy, that bring peace, think on those. You first have to um, go through the first part. What's the first part? The first part of that scripture?
Which one?
One about thinking on these things that are good. What's the first part? Um,
There's so many.
because
Which
it
one?
says,
When
be
what
anxious, be anxious for nothing,
mm-hmm.
but in everything,
But in all things.
and in prayer and in supplication. Somebody look up the word supplication. I did not mean to preach tonight.
Oh my God. Supplication. I have the word supplication.
Okay, what does it mean?
It's a noun, the action of asking or begging for something earnestly or humbly.
Okay, good. So in prayer and in supplication, make your request known, right?
Yes.
of God. So make your requests known. So
Mm-hmm.
in that moment, I wouldn't acknowledge, when I say, how do you feel? Be honest. I feel angry right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm angry. David did it so well. David in the Psalms. This is how I feel right now. He gives an example. I want to kill this person. I want to take their head and smash it against a wall. But God, you have been faithful to me. So I will not do that today. Like, no, he's honest, and that's a part of the lament. That's a part of the prayer and supplication. So be honest about how you feel. I'm angry. This is what I'm feeling. This anger makes me feel X, Y, and Z, but I'm gonna give you my anger.
Mm-hmm.
Show me how to reframe this anger. Show me what to do with this anger and frustration. Show me how to um, turn this into something. How can I look at this differently? Those are the questions, because if you address it and you bring it up and allow it to be seen and then bring it at the feet of God, it actually frees you more versus saying, you feel fear. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. Be anxious for nothing.
Yeah.
You know what
There's
I
the-
mean?
yes.
There's a difference because you actually suppress it and you don't address the fact, yo, I am anxious. That's natural.
Right. Absolutely.
Anxiety is a part of our human makeup.
Yeah.
So how am I going to literally take this anxiety, put it at the feet of Jesus and say, okay, I am feeling anxious. I don't know what to do with this, but I need you to help me sort through this anxiety. Where is this stemming from? How do I, or I know what this is stemming from because this is what this made me feel.
Right.
How do I address that? So that's important. So again, how we feel and what we choose to address or suppress
Mm.
affects how we actually deliver our voice.
Yep.
When we don't address our voice and when we don't address what's happening internally, we are actually suppressing things and confusing frequencies. Like the fear is still undercurrent. I'm not afraid. I'm gonna do. No, you are afraid, but I'm gonna do this afraid.
Right. That's a word. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm scared. I'm really scared and I'm really afraid. But you know what? I'm gonna allow you to walk me through this. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. You know, like I know you're with me, so you're gonna walk me through this. So really embracing that is gonna be super important and acknowledging those oops, I didn't mean to do that. Acknowledging those those emotions. That's gonna help you when it comes down to um that's going to help you when it comes down to delivering everything. We talked about following the emotion. So, in now applying that to the script of the song, well, okay, in this song, what is the emotion in the song? Identifying that. So, even in that, it's like the writer wrote lyrics based off of what they were feeling in that moment. We have to know and identify with that feeling. We can't be like, oh, I don't feel that because that's not, no, I feel that. We've all gone through that. So how do I address this and how do I sing from that place but come around it, um create backstories. And this is just the last tip, even for this, create backstories for anything that you sing and think about, so that you can identify with it the why. What is your why? um and how do I tell this because I truly identify it. But in order to do that, you always have to start with, how do I feel? Even if you're practicing and it's just like, yo, I am exhausted. When you know you're exhausted, you're going to be more gentle on yourself in that moment. You know it's not going to be perfect, so you're going to just give yourself grace. You know what I mean? But how do I feel? I feel exhausted. How do I feel? I feel angry, but we gonna get through this. But I'm definitely angry because that person really made me mad, and I don't like the way the anger makes me feel. I actually tense up, and the pain, like all that stuff. understanding what's going on mentally, emotionally, physically. It helps you connect and actually helps you resonate from a pure place versus manufactured. Make sense? Awesome. Well, you have any other questions before I let you go? This was the end of this session. Um,
I have one last question.
yes, ma'am.
So in regarding when you were saying being in tune with the spirit, how do you relate to those that aren't, and especially in worship? Um, because like oftentimes when I'm not singing worship and you're at a service, there can be times where someone's worshiping or singing a song, but it's more performing than they're actually worshiping
Mhm.
and worshiping the song. Um, so yeah, that's my question.
So how do you, I think I want to understand
How do you
that moment. Is that what you mean?
sorry?
How do you engage in that moment?
Yeah, because I really feel like I don't know. I don't think it's natural for everyone to be able to be, I don't know, maybe it's a gift or not, but like, oftentimes it's like I can feel that it's not the Holy Spirit when someone's actually worshiping or if they're not. So I was saying like how do you relate or how do you like being able to be in the room and trying to
I shut down.
um st-
To be quite honest, I shut down. I can tell too,
Mhm.
and I'm not gonna be phony in that moment. I will not. That's just not me. So
Mhm.
I will not be phony. I will watch and I will observe, and I will pray.
Mhm.
In that moment. I'm not going to try to out sing them, but I don't care that much. I don't need to be seen, nor do I need to be heard. So I will pray under my breath and ask the Lord to help them because I also recognize that that is a part of their immaturity and not recognizing what's actually happening. There's something disconnected too. So I pray for them in that moment. That's it. But try not to, I don't really engage because I'm not going to fake like I feel something when I don't. That makes sense? Yeah.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
And I have been known, like there have been moments where I will sit there, I will literally pray in a corner and not just be like, okay, or I will sit there or stand there and look around.
No, there have been many times. There's one example. There was like one time I was at a Christmas worship event and she was singing like a jazz blues thing, and it was like it was supposed to be a worship event, but it wasn't worship because you're singing jazz and you're like scatting and it doesn't feel right. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I
As an
get it.
example.
I get it. No, so I think it's just, I think it's also part of that is understanding we give people grace that also don't, they may not know. They don't know. And that's okay. Um, And it's not our job to tell them unless they ask, they want to know. We show grace and we love anyway. That's it. That's it. I so appreciate you all joining tonight. I appreciate those who are watching the replay. I appreciate the fact that you all participated in this webinar. It was awesome for me. Anytime I do these and anytime I teach a class, I learn something new. And I truly value our time together. Um, I would love if each of you all can just send a quick testimonial. It doesn't have to be long, it could be a sentence, whatever, explaining and expressing what these sessions did for you. That would be very, very helpful for me and for the Brave Voice movement. Um, for those that have not done so already, you can visit my site to see the other resources that we have at chantelhamptonmusic.com. But we have one-on-one coaching. Um, and certified life coach slash spiritual counselor. So I do give coaching to help you with your personal as well as professional goals, as well as the Brave Corner, which is a community, and it's a group, an accountability group. Um, there's additional resources there as well. So feel free to check them out, sign up, connect with me. But thank you in advance for your testimonial and sharing how this has helped you and what this has helped you process through. Because again, it's very, very helpful for me. I love you all and God bless.